So, what happens if you don't like reading and don't like writing? Can you actually still be successful as a researcher, as a PhD, if those things are very much a struggle for you? And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own story and then, give you, I guess, some strategies in terms of dealing with this, in terms of how I deal with this. So, if you don't know me, I'm Professor Dave Maslach. I am an associate professor of innovation in strategy. Um, and I would consider myself moderately successful. I wouldn't consider myself like super successful, but um, I think I've made it, and I think I've done okay. And yet I really struggle. First of all, I struggle with reading. That's always been something that's been part of my life is a sort of struggle with reading. I think, um, I know for a fact I have ADHD. I did the test, the only test that I actually passed with flying colors. But it didn't. I was undiagnosed for many, many years. And then, I think I have dyslexia. Now I understand what it's all about. And, I really struggle with both reading and writing. Doesn't come natural to me. But there's a couple of things that have helped for me that I think really is. So the reason why I actually got into research is I actually was just more curious about ideas. I think if you were to look at my profile, I've never actually done an IQ test or something. I think I'm actually pretty high on the curiosity sort of scale of things and, the idea of sort of picking things up logically. I'm probably relatively above average on that. My dad was as well. My mom is pretty thoughtful with a lot of different things as well. But I think my dad was always kind of like the person that was sort of thinking about things and thinking about different angles. So I was always kind of I'm a curious person more than anything, and I love puzzles. Just hard puzzles, but also I love the struggle of things. There's always one of the things that you will know if you have, early learning disabilities is that, and I don't like that term, but it's the term that everybody understands. But struggle becomes part of your identity. You completely understand it and, the struggle was, like, real for me, very much so. But, identifying the reading portion of it, it's really definitely has slowed me down a lot. I'm not a fast reader, and I'm also not. I think I'm actually a reasonably fast writer, but I am not necessarily a writer that gets things down in a very systematic way. Um, and I like to just like put a lot of stuff down because that's how I kind of accomplish things, was just like, let's just put the stuff down. And it didn't really understand, one of the things that when you have these kind of, learning disabilities, you forget where you're writing. That happens to me all the time. You kind of forget you get stuck on different things. And then you find, a different route to get around it because you can't remember a word. Those things have actually, because I've gotten a lot of practice with it, they don't happen as much now. So that kind of disappears with practice. But it's an enormous amount of practice, but that doesn't mean I'm fast with any of these kind of things. The idea part of things has always been my strength in terms of thinking about things, but implementing it and getting it down is another story. But I think this is very common for many of us that go through this route. So can you be successful? Right? Let's get down to this. I think you can. Um, I think. You often have to find your thing, though, that makes you successful. So I've been good at picking things that am interested and curious about that allows me to stick with these things and to push past some things that are somewhat painful. Now, I'm building this platform, the reciprocity platform, because this is a real problem. I think if I talk around with many people, you will notice that a lot of researchers really, really struggle with it. Um, Most researchers, if you just look at just raw data and patterns, they don't stick with it for that long. They actually get out of the industry. It's actually pretty somewhat sad. They get out in the sense that, they might be still in the industry, but they don't do research anymore. They find other things, and it's not easy to do it on a daily basis. So I want to change this. I want to make sure that anybody anywhere can write a reasonable, good research paper using available tools, put this together on some sort of, a platform that's the reciprocity platform and make it more fun. So you can walk through and at any given day, you can write these things. So even if you're an administrator, you are the president of the university, it's easy to do these things because you can jot it down and make sense of it, and walk you through. And that's the idea. Or, maybe you're a seventh grader and you want to, develop an idea and you don't know how. Well, it should walk you through. Right. And you can't just use AI to do these kind of things because you're going to lose motivation. It's going to be a lot more harder than you think it's going to be. So, that's one thing is using the reciprocity product or the platform that I'm building continuously and really making this thing. So go on to it, right? This is my hard pitch. Go on to it. You will think like there's a ton of crap that we built onto it and still continuing to build onto it. So, but on the other, in terms of strategies, I think the biggest thing that you just have to rely on, and this is why it's so miserable often, is just just determination, like just ruthless, brutal determination. That's your first thing is really working on that. Because nobody's going to come into the rescue. It's one of the things I've learned is like you can't rely on other people. You'll realize that it often doesn't work out. Now, if you are fortunate enough that you have a great group, or you're part of a team, or you went to the right situation and it all worked out, which there are cases. I do know of, cases where that does happen. If you can continue that energy with a few people, um, it sort of creates a flywheel effect, right? And it becomes a lot more fun over as you sort of build these things. But this very rare and very difficult to actually do to create this flywheel in sort of effect over time. And it depends on a lot of different factors that are often outside of your control. Um, and that there is a lot more to it. So those two things are really important. Just raw determination. You're going to do this come hell or high water. Can people keep that up for a long time? I think I've reasonably kept it up for a long time. But that doesn't mean, I think I'm kind of weird. I'm a little bit off the rocker on it. Um, as kind of a derogatory term, but like I'm a little weird on this. But if you find like anything else, like a good company, for example, why a good company can't take off is you find the right people that cluster together and you can all rely on each other and it creates something. So finding a group of friends that you can, and good luck finding a group of friends that will do this, by the way. It's like miserably impossible. But finding, that's part of the reason why I do so many videos and stuff is because I know that there's other people like me that are really struggling with this. And they want to get reaffirmed. They want to know like, hey, I'm not the only one. So, all of these components, when you add it up, it's a lot of like just knowing that you could do this, ignoring those feelings that you often have that you can't do this and getting up and showing up every day And finding a support group, just like any other kind of hard endeavor, like exercise and those kind of things, you find a support group that will help you, um, it's more fun. Right? If you find and it doesn't mean and the third thing I think is important to know is that this comes and goes, right? Like, you might jump onto the reciprocity platform, be excited about it for 2 days, and then it disappears, right? Like, and that is okay. You might go to a group and really love, being part of a group that's gonna push you forward, and you're part of it for a month or 2, and then it goes and something else happens. That's where your own gumption, that term I really like, comes in, where you have to say, "I'm just gonna do this come hell or high water." Right? Like, it is a lot of just pushing back and going and trying every day and just going and going and going and just being so relentless that, you just make the damn thing happen. Right? And you repeat that as many times as you possibly can. So I think those components are critically important. And yes, you could be moderately successful with this, right? And depending on how long that you could stick this out, um, likely will mean and depending on your circumstances, the sort of lucky circumstances that happen, you can be highly successful. Right? So just know that, um, there's a lot involved. It's like building a company, that there is a lot of moments that are involved, and not every company that starts is going to be really good, but at the same time, there are a few that get through. So if somebody has done it, if somebody out there that looks kind of like you, or maybe is remotely like you, or you've heard stories, that means that you could probably do it as well, right? You just have to have that faith that you can do it every day. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.